Hello everyone, we are greeted by the legendary No Man's Land. As you may have noticed, the balance is at 0 since this is a survival from scratch. Therefore, right now the first necessity is to earn some money. For this, I have this old chainsaw, and in the distance I see a small group of trees, so that is where we are heading. I think we will cut down this small pine and earn our first money with it. After clearing the trunk from the branches, I took it in my hands and started carrying it to the selling point. They paid the first money for it, and it was only $80. This is a ridiculous amount, which will not even be enough for us to buy the cheapest equipment because we cannot use rentals. So I had no choice but to continue earning money. I decided to do this not far from the selling point since this is no man's land and nobody will scold us for it. My target again became a small pine, which I could easily carry by hand. After dragging it to the selling point, I did not sell the wood immediately because I decided that there was no point in it. Therefore, I returned and started cutting another tree. I carried it as well and continued working with the wood. My goal at the moment is to earn 500 euros, which will help us buy the first piece of equipment. After carrying 3 small pines, I decided that this might already be enough. I also decided to check whether the wood would be more expensive if it was cut into pieces, so after trying to do that, I sold the tree. But to my disappointment, this idea did not bring us much, because after the sale, the budget was only $275. I did not despair and now aimed at a bigger tree, because by cutting it, we will get a lot of wood at once. All that remained was to cut this big trunk into smaller parts that we could carry manually. I managed this without much effort and started carrying the small logs to the selling point. When almost half of the tree had been carried, I decided that this would be enough, and my guess was indeed confirmed, because after the sale, the needed 500 euros were already on the balance. Without a second of doubt, I went to the shop, where I decided to buy this old pickup that our budget allowed. Such a cheap price is not surprising because the car looks like it is about to fall apart. To my surprise, it started without any problems, and I think it will serve us well in work. To test this vehicle, I drove up to the remaining trunk and started cutting it into pieces that we could easily load into the pickup bed. Then I began loading the wood into the pickup. Just look how much I managed to load. By hand, I would never carry that much. Therefore, I think that buying this car fully justified itself. By the way, I loaded literally the whole remaining trunk into the bed and went to the selling point hoping for good earnings. And they turned out to be quite good because after the sale, the balance became almost $2,000. When this happened, I began to think about starting to build my own farm. But as you understand, with such a small capital, it will be very difficult to do. Therefore, I decided to earn at least $5,000 to begin with. The easiest way is to continue earning money from wood. So I did not invent anything complicated, and together with the car went to the nearest big tree. As usual, I trimmed it from branches so they would not interfere during transportation. Then I cut it into pieces that we could load into the pickup. Loading in turn also did not cause any difficulties. And the short distance to the selling point allowed us to quickly earn another 1,000 euros. But as you understand, this was still not enough for us. So I went for another tree. And right here, something interesting happened. I did not cut the tree very carefully, so it fell onto our car. Fortunately, even though it was old, it still withstood the weight of the tree and did not fall apart. I quickly decided to cut the branches to remove the weight. And while I was doing this, a brilliant idea came to my mind. So when I finished trimming the branches, I cut the tree into 2 parts. The part that was hanging over the pickup bed I secured with straps. And thanks to this, I managed to transport this large log to the selling point. Once there, I cut this trunk into smaller parts. But I did not sell them yet because one more part of the tree remained. I went back for it and loaded it into the pickup as well. And only after I transported the entire tree to the selling point did I sell it. Thanks to this, the balance became almost $5,000 as I had planned. However, the planned amount was still not fully earned, so I continued selling wood. Remembering what had happened earlier, I decided to transport the next tree in a clever way. For this, I drove the pickup up to the chosen tree and cut the tree directly onto the car. Then it only remained to trim the branches a little and transport it, which is exactly what I did. And already at the selling point, I cut the trunk and sold it. Thanks to this, I received the desired money, and the balance exceeded $5,000. Excellent! That means we can move on to the plan and begin building our own farm. For this, I got into the car and went to look for a suitable place. The landscapes of the area were really beautiful and construction could be started absolutely anywhere. But when I drove up to this lake, everything fell into place. I think this is the perfect plot to build a farm, because there are many advantages here. Flat land, a lake nearby, and also a forest. Switching to construction mode, first of all, I built a small house for $1,000, and after that a shed, under which we will be able to place our equipment. It would also be possible to build some kind of production, but unfortunately we do not have the money for that right now, therefore I simply fenced the planned territory of our plot with a fence. Wonderful! Now the foundation of our farm has been laid. The main necessity now will be creating a road. For this I went to the store to buy the necessary tool. Since there is a lot of grass on our plot, first of all we will need a mower. That is what I bought for $80, but the mower is not all because I also thought that we would need pitchforks. Therefore I also bought them, spending $26 on it. Excellent! Now we have everything we need, so we load the new equipment into the bed. After that we get into our pickup and head to our plot, where upon arrival I took out the mower and started it. It is here that our road will be, which I began creating with the help of the purchased mower. But the road is not the only thing that needs to be cleared, so I started mowing the area where we will work. By the way, the mower handles its main task without any problems, so thanks to this, the work went quickly and efficiently. At this point, I decided to stop. For the beginning, such a territory will be enough for us. As for the cut grass, I did not want to just throw it away. Therefore, switching to construction mode, I installed a special rack, with a cost of a little more than $1,000. Thanks to this rack, we will be able to create hay from grass, as well as silage. Well then, now that we have cut the grass, we need to move it to the rack. For this, I took the pitchforks out of the pickup bed and filled them. After that, I carried the collected grass directly to the rack and dumped it there. I had to do this many more times because the pitchforks could hold only a little grass. During the work, our stack of grass was filling in good proportions. And since this work was not difficult, I managed it without any problems. By the way, there is a need to mow a road to the haystack as well as to the lake. So I used the mower and did it. And I carried the cut grass directly to the new production. Thanks to the hard work, more than 6,000 liters of grass ended up in the storage, and I started it so that it would ferment. At this point, the work on the territory of the farm was finished for now, and by that time we were already running out of money. Therefore, without thinking for long, I got into our truck and went to the forest where I decided to cut some firewood. Upon arrival, I cut down a small pine. After that, I cut off its branches and also divided it into smaller pieces. These pieces of wood I started loading into the pickup, and when it became full, I secured everything with straps and headed to the shop. They paid me almost 2,000 euros for this tree. Excellent, we received a pretty good budget in order to invest it somewhere and earn even more. Therefore, I returned to our plot. Right here, I am going to install another production. To do this, first of all, I used a brush cutter. With it, I cleared the area where the new production will supposedly be located. Of course, I again moved the grass into our grass storage. It, just like the rest of the grass, will gradually turn into silage. Excellent, now we switch to construction mode and install a new production. Here we will produce firewood from wood, which is plentiful on this plot. Now, of course, we need to prepare the raw materials for this production. For that, I went to the forest again and cut down a tree, which I carefully processed, preparing it for cutting, and I loaded the cut parts of the tree into the pickup bed. After that, I drove to our new production and unloaded all the wood there. Thanks to this, the storage filled up quite well. But this was not all the wood that we cut, so I went once again and picked up the remaining parts, which in turn I also unloaded at the production and thereby activated its work. Well then, I think the first day can be finished here. We managed to create a pretty good farm in just one day, but further it will only continue to develop. Therefore, if you liked this video, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Bye everyone, and thanks for watching.